Welcome. My name is Thomas Andrews Jr., a Managing Director of Harland Wolff Shipyards and Chief Designer, but I prefer the name Shipbuilder. I'd like to begin our journey with showing you a few pieces from the history of where the Iron Giants were built, escalating to our most prized ship yet. We call her the 401, but the world will know her by a different name, the Titanic, the largest moving object we've ever made. Now, to begin, in this photo in our collection, we have one of the original apprentice photos of the actual Thomas Andrews Jr. and the other young lads. The photo, of course, was taken by Robert Welch, who visited the yard and often took all the yard photos, as well as the Andrews wedding photos. Tommy, as he was known then, started his apprenticeship at 16 years of age in the year 1889. Now, even before Robert Welch was designated the official photographer of Harland Wolff circa 1894, he had taken many hundreds of photographs of the yard. There he had a mobile yet simple studio for informal studios of the various yard workers. In this regard, Welch was assisted by his sister Sarah, who was not only his photographer or darkroom assistant, but also bookkeeper. You see, Sarah was pregnant at the yard along with her brother. I read that when Sarah died in 1915, it was a crushing blow to Robert, who lived until 1936. The above photograph was taken in the yard circa 1890. Now, the number one person on this that we have listed here, to the far left, his name is John Woodside. Now, John and his older brother James both became consulting engineers. Specifically, John was an electrical engineer who did considerable electrical work in Portrush, the Belfast, Sheffield, Hippocrates, plus numerous mills and factories in Antrim and Down. Tragically, Woodside died on February 2, 1908 in Belfast, aged 37. Newspaper accounts attributed his death to heart failure following an attack of quinsy, which is an abscess. Now, Woodside is interred in Belfast Cemetery. Probate was granted to his widow, Jessie S. Woodside. And this is in the age before antibiotics, given the fact that Woodside was suffering from a throat abscess. He most likely succumbed to septicemia, blood poisoning, which caused his heart to fail. Sad but rare. Moving on, number 2, this gentleman is Harold Edward Jocelyn Camps, whom Jack Eaton and Charlie Haas identified in their books as Thomas Andrews, which necessitated a big correction for Mr. Andrews, Mrs. Thomas Andrews, that is. Camps was born in England in 1874. Let me try that part again. Harold Edward Jocelyn Camps, whom Jack Eaton and Charlie Haas identified in one of their books as Thomas Andrews, which necessitated a big correction from Titanic, Mrs. Thomas Andrews. You see, Camps was born in England in 1874, and that is where he returned upon completion of his apprenticeship. The last mention occurred from 1889 to 1894, and like Andrews, Camps attended technical classes in the evening. In 1903, he wed Alice Elizabeth Percy, and they had 2 daughters, one of whom died in 2009 at age 99. In 1901, both Andrews and Camps were accepted as members of the Royal Institution of Naval Architects. Camps was employed at Palmer Shipbuilding in Jarrow and later by Sir Relton Dixon and Company, a shipbuilder in Middlesbrough, on Tees. In 1911, he described himself as consulting engineer, naval architect and marine surveyor. Harold Camps enjoyed longevity, dying on 16 January 1951 at the Royal Masonic Hospital in London, England. Moving on to number 3, we have Frederick Wolfe May. You'll see Frederick Wolfe May and his twin sister Clara Fanny May were both born on 10th October 1872 in Hamburg, Germany, to Frederick Albert May, colonial merchant, and his wife Clara Matilda Wolfe. Frederick and Clara were nephew and niece of Gustav Wolff, respectively. Frederick first appears, aged 8, on the 1881 census, living with his sister, parents at the Birches, Laurie Park Gardens, in Lewisham, London. I cannot find the family on the 1891 census, and I can only imagine that they were out of the country due to Frederick's work as a colonial merchant. Now, Clara Matilda May passed away in Kensington on 25th March 1896, aged only 47 years. She's buried in Brompton Cemetery, London. In 1901, the widowed Frederick is now living at 10 The Boltons, Kensington, London, along with Frederick Jr., now a steamship manager with his uncle Gustave, who died in 1901. In 1903, Frederick Sr. married Louise Spencer Smith. However, 5 years later, in 1908, Frederick Sr. dies of typhoid fever and heart disease in Dorset. In 1911, Frederick Jr. and Ida have moved to Woodmancote, Clifton, near Maidenhead. The census return states that Frederick and Ida have had one child, but they're not living together at the same time the census was taken. At one time, May was director of the Atlantic Transport Company Limited. Frederick Wolfe May died aged 51 in 1924. Now, number 4, we have Samuel Craig Nelson Carr. He always went by the name Nelson and was a mechanical engineer who in 1911 was residing at number 33 Windsor Avenue, just down the street from Thomas and Helen Andrews. His father was a bank director, and Nelson Carr resided on Windsor Avenue for over 10 years before being there prior to Thomas and Helen renting Patterson Home in Dunlin in June 1908. You see, Elizabeth Patterson had died in August 1902, so Andrews was actually renting from John Fleming Patterson and not from Mrs. Patterson, as is often said. As of 1911, Carr was still unmarried. He lived until 1950. Now, moving forward, we have here what is known at the yards in my time as the wage board, or as we call them, the timekeeping board. You see, timekeeping boards such as these. It's a local spelling from East Belfast, known as timekeeping board, where we use it at Harland Wolff Belfast Shipyard between 1860 and 1970. During this 100-year period, the time offices was responsible for up to 400 workers and their boards, like these. You see, these boards were small pieces of hard wood and 2 small shutters cut into the side as such. And in between was stamped the worker's number. The board was issued to each shipyard worker at the start of each day and kept on their person while they worked. If any special equipment was required, the board would be given to the yard storeman as a deposit. If the equipment was not returned, the board was held. There'd be financial implications. At the end of the day, the board was returned to the time office, and the day's wages were calculated. Over time, a phrase developed among the shipyard workers: no board, no pay. Now, moving from that, I'd like to spend a moment to tell you a wee bit about this. You'll see, the Titanic's rivets, crucial in holding the ship's hull together. They're primarily made of wrought iron, with some containing high concentration of slag, which made them brittle in cold temperatures. This we now know. Each rivet weighed approximately 1 pound and was measured about 4 to 6 inches in length, though this was a wee bit smaller. At the Harland Wolff shipyards where the Titanic was built, the rivets like these were hand-forged by skilled workers, though some were made by less experienced apprentices as well. But you see, this practice continued in the shipyard for years, evolving with advancements in metallurgy and manufacturing techniques. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, as we reflect on the remarkable craftsmanship and dedication that went into the creation of the Titanic, we are reminded of the ingenuity and hard work of every individual at Harland and Wolff shipyards. The rivets, the backbone of our ship, symbolize the strength and resilience of our team. As we conclude this segment, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all who have contributed to this monumental project, and a special thank you to my lovely wife Nellie for her unwavering support. Now, Let us proceed to the next portion of our program. Thank you.
Oh, hello, good afternoon. Last night, Tommy and I were listening to Berceuse by Jocelyn. It brought back wonderful memories from our honeymoon when we had actually seen the music performed at the Vaudeville Opera House in Lucerne, Switzerland. As of late, reminiscences of the honeymoon and the wedding, along with our trips in County Down on the Ards Peninsula, these times have kept me sustained. As you all know, that work has begun on the Olympic-class liners. And it has become all too consuming, I must admit. So I find myself quite often looking at our wedding and honeymoon memories. In fact, everything was out this afternoon, so it's wonderful of you to stop by. I also recently, at the family picnic, I saw Lord Perry and Lady Perry, Uncle William, and he was continuing to share with me many of the things about the yard, where of course my husband and he work, and of course where Lady Perry also is quite involved. You see, he had explained to me that the Titanic and the Olympic, of the new Olympic class liners, which we are presently beginning construction, they will be two of a fleet of 13 ships employed in the transport for passengers, for mail, for cargo between Great Britain and New York, USA. The usual ports of call for service will be, I believe, and I want to make sure I have this correct, Southampton, Cherbourg, Plymouth, Queenstown, and of course New York. The owners, of course, being the Oceanic Steam Navigation Company, of which Lord Perry explained to me that he, Mr. J. Bruce Ismay, and H.A. Sanderson, Mr. Sanderson, are owners. They may, or should I say, they are the directors. And of course, all being under J.P. Morgan's Mercantile Marine. They were explaining to me that they have full interest in at least 29 vessels, and one of them actually being a training vessel just for the officers, training to take care of the ships. So I thought that quite interesting. In fact, while Lord Perry was here, he had shared with me a book, and right here, this is, I had everything marked down, and he had it all explained to me, so I was reading it through, and you had come by. This is one of the books that all officers and all people working on the vessels will carry, and they will, every port of call, every vessel that they are employed, they will be noted inside this booklet. And this is from the Board of Trade, and a continuous certificate of discharge after each bit of work. And I will show you here. And I just found this so interesting. Tommy does share stuff with me as well, but Lord Perry had brought this with him and has yet to pick it up, and is from one of the workers. And there you even can see the birth certificate of one of the officers there. Very, very, very interesting. Well, of course, as I'd said, my wedding and honeymoon memories, along with our day trips, our picnic lunches, our rides in the motor, they have been sustaining me as the work on Olympic and Titanic, the Olympic class liners, is in full gear, and it's been all too consuming, to be honest. I do miss my husband so many evenings, but of course we, as their wives, we support them, and behind every great man is a better woman. I do support my husband in all he does, and I should never complain. I should like to share with you, I'm here reading it, and I thought I'd share it with you since you have come by. I have here our letters, all our important papers in regards to our wedding. And here we are, the envelope, Reverend Benjamin Banks, Chancellor Banks, who officiated over our wedding from Lambic Parish. He sent his letter ahead of our wedding, and he directed it to my husband, Thomas Andrews Jr., 31 Wellington Place, Belfast. Of course, he was rooming there with the Scott sisters during his schooling. And on the back says, please return Lambic Directory. And I should like to read to you Reverend Banks' letter and share with you what he had to say. And he wrote, Dear Mr. Andrews, tomorrow evening will be my only evening at home this week, so by all means, come over and let us talk over matters and make arrangements. I have assured Nellie already that I will do everything in my power to move things accordingly and according to her wishes. Please understand that I am very keen about this wedding. When Nellie told us, I said, there is one thing certain. I can congratulate the man and the lady. Nellie has gained and holds my affectionate regard. So kind. And I admire your choice. I congratulate you and have wished you good fortune. I don't think there is a girl. Oh, I love this. And it means so much to me. So kind of the Reverend to write this. I don't think that there is a girl fit to compare with her, Nellie, over our whole district. Nellie has never forgotten Lambic, and in her absence, her heart it has only made her heart grow fonder. And I shall try to find my other page of my last bit of my thing. Here we are. And Nellie might have chosen a finer building, I think not, elsewhere, but nowhere else could your vows and the marriage is your vows, excuse me. I think I need a bit of tea. Had that cup all turned around. Nowhere else could you be married in an atmosphere of true affection. Your friends will be near the marble pillars, and he writes, May the blessing of God rest upon you both. May you add another happy hour to her. May you add another. Oh, Mr. Banks, add another happy hour to her vows of old Ireland. Very truly yours, Reverend Banks. Sometimes I must admit, and shall not say anything to him, I have trouble reading his handwriting. Well, of course, our wedding was announced in the papers, and the fashionable wedding at Lambic. And I shall read you a few notables from that. And it says, quite a fashionable gathering from northern cities thronged the prettily decorated parish church at Lambic last afternoon to witness the wedding of Mr. Thomas Andrews Jr., son of the Right Honorable Thomas Andrews, and nephew of the Right Honorable Baron Peary, Lord Peary, and Miss Helen Reilly J. Doherty Barbour, Dunmurray, and Hilden and Leamington Spa. The ceremony was performed by the Reverend Banks, Chancellor Banks, rector of the parish. The bride was given away by her brother, my brother, John Milne, And Mr. Frank Barbour and Mr. James Andrews, of course, my brothers, acted as best man. After reception at Dunmurry, of course, we left for Switzerland on our honeymoon, which, of course, I am going to share much more with that with you, which is so much. So I have so many things to share with you. And our article in the paper read, Wednesday, June 24th, 1908, Belfast Evening Telegraph. Fashionable wedding at Lambic, Andrews and Barbour. No, it says, a large and fashionable congregation assembled at Lambic Parish Church this afternoon to witness the marriage of Mr. Thomas Andrews, Jr., son of the Right Honorable Thomas Andrews and the Right Honorable Baron Peary, with Miss Helen Reilly Barbour, second daughter of the late John Doherty Barbour, and Miss Barbara Conway Dunmurry, Anne Hilden, and Leamington. The church had been artistically decorated with palms and plants, white flowers, and the ceremony was performed by the Reverend Banks, rector of the parish. Shall I share with you a bit about the pictures that we have, thanks to Mr. Welch, that I will be telling you of a bit later. Yes, Mr. Welch from the yard, he also took our photographs of the wedding. And as you had come in, I had just been admiring one of the photographs outside the parish with all the ivy on the outside of the building. It's just wonderful and so refreshing and so beautiful. Everything can be more perfect. And later, during our honeymoon in Switzerland, it's funny, I shall tell you later about a church we came across that had the same type of ivy all over the front of the church. So that will be something. And there's a special photograph that goes with that I will tell you about. Well, on the interior of Lambic Parish, my soon-to-be husband, Thomas, he was seated up towards the main, up towards the front, and to the right in front of the organ, and he was seated facing the lectern towards the middle there. And the organ is just beautiful where he was sitting. It's just so large, and it takes up the whole side of that wall, and just so beautiful. I've noticed that some of the photographs here that were taken, some of the people had started moving, some of the guests had started moving, so there is some blurred shots of the church, but you can see the archways on both sides of the main aisle. And then we had a wonderful white lily, white ribbon, and white roses, sprigs of sweet pea everywhere on the ends of the pews. It's a beautiful, beautiful memory. And as I had said, one of the photographs was blurred. It's funny, when you look at the photograph, because everybody was moving about, there is the back of one lady's head, her hair and her hat, that is just crystal clear, perfect. And then who shall I see up to the front there, off to the right, facing where Reverend Banks will be, is my husband-to-be. As clear, again, crystal clear. I can see him as well from the side. A beautiful memory, blurred or not, with some of the other attendants. And beautiful with the archways. I wouldn't even consider another venue for our special day.
Heart beats fast, colors and promise.